finally, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey optimistic about expanded playoff. We have all but excluded the West Coast and everything west of the Rockies all but 2 years. We want college football to be strong nationally, and I think that's the responsibility we all have. Now, some of that is they haven't earned it. Some of it, there's only 4 spots to earn, and so they're not the only conference that's been left out, but that has been the case. And you know, California's a large population, no matter how rabid the fans are, and that's a large state to leave out of any interest in college football.
It is. I think Greg Sankey's an interesting character in the expansion wars in college football, in that here was a guy who, in the months before he got Texas and Oklahoma out from the Big 12 in secret, was working with that commissioner on an expanded playoff. So if he didn't want to expand the playoff, he wouldn't have been on that committee unless it was just some sort of, next level spycraft subterfuge to get everybody to look one way while he's doing something else. So he wanted an expanded playoff. He came up with the idea. He spent hours and days of his life working on this committee and coming up with ways to make it work. And then, everybody kind of thought that he was trying to pull the rug out from all of college football and make it kind of an SEC-only thing, which I never completely bought. I could see why you would think that, but to me, that's a large burden to put on yourself, other than just making sure that you are always going to be the king of the college football kingdom and the subject's the same. And I think that's really where he is. And wanting to be college football powerful nationally, he knows it's good. It'll be good for the SEC if Georgia beats USC in a national championship game. And people in California will watch and see his team maybe more than they would one of his teams more than they would in the past. So I don't think he's as nefarious as people think, but I can see why they think that, given there were 2 different things going on at a certain point last year.
Yeah, I think, the West Coast and west of the Rockies kind of left themselves out. I mean, Oregon got in and Washington got in when they had the chance to. So they were both early playoff teams. So they've had more representation than the state of Texas has.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would like to think that, Texas is just as, as a region and just kind of a hot spot as much as all the West Coast and Rockies. I mean, not saying one's better than the other, but I think they're both, highly significant, obviously. So I'm probably not the best person to comment on Greg Sankey or Kevin Warren talking about things in college football, because I just immediately look for the lie and look through where the real root of what they're trying to say is. And that's probably far too pessimistic for every single comment they make. But that's what I think about now, because of what's happened over the last year and a half is the same guys, the same main 2 guys talking about the best of college football and the betterment of college football and not leaving people out are the same ones that have created this entire situation with their 2 land grabs.
But Sankey did he not, larger numbers in the playoff? He
did.
Yeah.
But also with the SEC still benefiting from that greatly by being able to have a majority of the playoff, which they're still going to have. My point is, when you talk about West of the Rockies, what are you really talking about? You're talking, the Big Ten somewhat addressed that. They've gotten UCLA and USC. So they are acknowledging West of the Rockies. And we've heard all the little talk about, Oregon and Washington, all that. But is he talking about those schools because that's the schools that have the most people and the most eyeballs? Or is he talking about really Utah State or Oregon State or Washington State or San Diego State or any of those other schools? Like, that's where I'm kind of wondering you can kind of go both ways with it. Yeah, you've expanded it by adding the LA schools to the Big Ten now. But are you more talking about it deeper in that, you really do have the benefit of all of college football in mind, which means beyond just the big market programs?
Are you giving this at least one group of 5 spot for the top 6 highest rated conference champions because you really want San Diego State or Memphis or it's not going to be Cincinnati anymore.
SMU, Houston,
SMU to be in the playoff, or do you want them to shut up about it?
I would hope it's that they want them to be in there, and that's what I mean. Is like I hear his comments or I hear Kevin Warren, I'm just immediately like trying to sort through and figure out what they're really trying to say. And I probably do that to just the most benign of comments. So I'm not the best person to probably comment on his comments there.
Do you have that, Garrett, the quote? This is another quote. Listen, I understand it's hard to trust anybody after what we've seen. At the same time, you can barely read that, but I have it here. I'm fine if we win the championship every year. But we have a responsibility to think about the game from a bigger picture. This is coming from the SEC Commissioner. I want to win, and I'm not going to apologize for that, but I'm also going to challenge myself and us collectively to think about the big picture. He then said this: the beauty of going to 12 is you could have as many as 40 teams with a chance to get into the playoff entering the month of November.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Why
agree with
does
that.
the NFL win? Why do they have like every 8-8, 9-8, whatever they have almost, it seems like, other than 10 teams out of 32 have a chance to get in the playoffs in the last weekend of the year?
Well, yeah, unless you've
And
completely
he's talking about November.
Well, yeah, but at least you've completely fallen on your face in the NFL, then you've got a chance if you rally. The Cowboys a few years ago were 3-5, traded for Amari Cooper and won 7 games in a row. Those things can happen. Why did Major League Baseball expand? Because the only thing it ruined there was the trade deadline. Because teams that were, 4 games out of the wild card didn't go, okay, well, now there's another wild card, so you're not really 4 games out, you're 2 games out. So,
you mean to tell me that the Cowboys had an early season injury that could have derailed, but they didn't get screwed by just having one loss on the entire year and were basically eliminated? That certainly helps. Mm-hmm. Certainly helps that you don't have one blemish in maybe week 2 and you're already out of the grand scheme of things.
And that's why, and I am so adamant about this, and I know that it's changed now when they go to 12, but this is before that when I got into that rant about winning the conference championship should mean something. Now, there's still some asterisks to that, but that's why the Cowboys made the playoffs. They made the playoffs because they won the division or they earned it through a wild card. Teams that win a division are in, even if it's a horrible division. Like this year, who's going to win the division with the Texans and Titans and those? Colts?
All of us, Smokey.
Someone is, though. Someone in that division.
Win.
Because you know what? There have also been times that division has also been blank strong and have probably had a team that's been left out, even though there are more playoff teams or more, I guess you could say, wild card teams than ever before. So it's 3:36 when we come.